Hey, what's going on? Lexi Eve here. Do without wilt shall be the whole of the law. I'm walking up 14th Street. I just passed 9th Avenue, and today I'm going to be giving a talk up on the High Line, which is right behind me over here, about psychic vampire, energy manipulation, and the positives, the pros and cons. That, yeah, it could be a very taboo ideology, psychic vampirism, but I want to dive into that a little bit and open it up because honestly there are some good aspects to it, and you can use energy manipulation in a very positive manner for your own benefit without doing anything wrong to anybody else. So let's dive in. I'm gonna get up on the High Line and I'll see you guys in a second. So like I mentioned, today I'm on the High Line and I'm downtown, not exactly at the beginning. As you can see there's a bunch of paths. It goes down a couple more blocks, I believe. But I'm right by the bathroom, somewhere around 9th Street, I think. I started on 14th, I walked downtown. And just before I take off, I want to give a couple of preliminary thoughts. So, being that I'm in New York City and I'm hoping to reach a crowd of people from at least all over the states, whether you're new to magic, new to Thelema, or you've been practicing a while. I know mostly every Thelemite in New York City, not on talking relations. You know, I have my crowd, other Thelemites have their own crowds based on what orders people belong to and don't belong to. But I know the majority of Thelemites that are in New York City. And anywhere you go, Thelema tends to be a very small community. So I want this to reach people that are not in New York City, maybe have never been to New York City. So what I plan on doing is taking pictures as I'm walking. So I'm gonna be pausing the video quite a lot. As I've gotten up here, I noticed there are people with masks, there's people without masks. I choose to wear a mask, one, out of respect. Who knows, anybody could have this, the COVID, and not know that you have it and then accidentally spread it. So it's not just about my safety, it's about keeping other people safe. Also, if a mask is gonna help me at all, that's a great thing. Just wanted to share, I'm kind of really happy. I got a call yesterday and I'm gonna start working at Columbia University with disabled students, and even though I'm vaccinated, I got both of my shots a couple months back, they are gonna still test me for COVID to make sure that I don't have it and that I'm not gonna transmit it to other people, which I think is great. I think that's super responsible. So you know, if a mask is gonna give me just even 1% more protection from COVID, I need to be wearing it because I can't afford not to get this job. It's in a great place. I mean, Columbia University, I'm sure anybody watching this video knows Columbia University. And it's a great position. I'm a sidereal Leo. I was talking to my partner, my fiance, yesterday, and any job that I've ever done that is, how could I say, service-based and helps people and doesn't benefit me and only me. If it's benefiting me job-wise, I'm working, I'm getting paid, that's great. But if it's something that helps people, it's a position that's actually service-oriented, that's the best thing that a Leo can do for themselves, because it curbs their ego, it makes it not about them, and they're natural-born leaders. They're good at giving people information and guiding others. So I'm keeping the mask on, is what I'm saying. I kind of ranted a little bit, but I also wanted to share my little new opportunity and career path that's opened up in my life. So that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna get walking and just bear with the video. I'm not a video editor by trade, so I'm just learning as I go along. So I'm gonna pause from time to time, snap pictures, and go from my face to the other side of the camera. I'm on selfie mode, so I'll go to regular camera. If I see things that I think people will be interested in, whether it's buildings or etc, etc. There's a bunch of stuff that I think is pretty cool. So without further ado, let's get this. Alrighty then. So, Walk Magick, episode 2, psychic vampirism, energy manipulation, moving energy. What is that? Let's start off there. We've all seen vampire movies, I'm sure, Count Dracula. There's a bunch of different variations, Helsing, and other stuff. There's comedies like the one with Eddie Murphy, A Vampire in Brooklyn. That's not vampirism. That's, you know, folklore. Where Dracula comes from is folklore. He was Vlad the Impaler. He was a vicious warmonger, and his method of executing his enemies was to impale them, mostly while still alive, through the rectum with a long, sharpened piece of wood that would go up the backside and would come out the chest, neck, and they'd die by being slowly impaled as gravity weighed down on them. And so it was so bloody and so brutal. He poured acid on people, or hot oil rather, from as they were trying to charge into the castles. You know, very vicious. It's war. So on one side it's war, on the other side it's a matter of torture. You know, you could kill somebody quick and swift, or it's a matter of torture, and whether he delighted in that or not, I don't know, just going by history. But folklore surrounded him because of the vicious nature of what he did, and vampires became this thing in folklore, especially Romania, where he was, where the dead would rise, and it has a sort of connection to zombies of the Haitian origin, where the fear of being a slave for all of eternity. Death was a release. It was not feared. It was welcomed in a certain sense. And if you, I guess the idea with zombies was that if you had really bad karma, right, according to the voodoo religions, then you were going to come back as a zombie, and you'd be a slave because of your skin color for all eternity, and forced to work the fields forever. There was no release. If you followed the tenets of your religion and you were able to die, you'd go into their sort of nirvana, whatever that was called, you know. So that being said, there is a connection of the dead rising. Now, where vampires come from, they partake of other people, like how modern zombies, not the Haitian zombies of old, sort of were, but vampires would kind of suck the energy of the life force, which it was thought blood was the life force, almost like how the prana of the Hindus or the yogis, like Paracelsus, thought that, and Roger Bacon, I'm sure Isaac Newton, probably, there was a lot of talks philosophically about if blood was the life source. And so any type of folklore, you're going to find some type of truth in there. And then things get confused, usually by lay people that don't exactly have an understanding of, here's a pretty wall, of the difference between superstition, what's real and what's not real, you know? So, when it comes to vampirism, there is a thing you could do with energy manipulation where you can consume somebody's energy. And a lot of times even bloody sacrifices have a connection to vampirism in that sense, by the vulgar or lay people that don't really understand what's going on. So to kind of dive into it a little bit more, you have this idea of vampirism, consuming the life force. Now, I want to start with something completely different, but that leads into it. And it's sort of like a Buddhist thing. And I call it body scanning. So, if you take a second and wherever you are, just find a place of stillness, right? And you begin at your feet. And just feel them. Feel the tip of your toes. Move it slowly across the soles of your feet. It's like your attention is focused as a pinpoint there. So focus your pinpoint attention to the soles of your feet and scan the bottoms. Then slowly move your attention up your ankles, up your shins, and you sort of go up your whole entire body in this capacity, where all the way up your torso, right? And so it's like you're bringing your attention, so the only thing you're completely aware of is where your focus is. Right now it's at my fingertips, and I slide my attention back slowly down my forearm, and then I could do the other arm. Now, in this act of scanning, if you do this long enough, you'll start to notice, well, first of all, you'll feel where are you in pain, where's comfortable for you. There's things that you could do here. You could actually heal your body once you get a grip on how to move energy in this capacity. It's sort of like how people do Reiki, how they move energy in other people, is by starting with this training method, scanning your body very slowly, up and down and left and right and up and down, multiple times a day, you know? So you're constantly taking time out and becoming aware of your entire body slowly, piece by piece, right? And once you do that, you'll start to notice you can create prana, or the prana that's already there, rather. You can manipulate that prana. And prana, again, is life force, and I'm not going to get into that here. Just Google prana and get an understanding of what that is, because that's what you want to start to move around. Now, here's something interesting I noticed. In 2012, when I was doing a lot of LSD and club drugs and partying a lot, there was times people would be tripping around me, hallucinating, and not that I was, fiending or craving, but, you'd want to party and get high too. And then sometimes you'd hang out with people long enough while they were tripping that you'd start to get the effects. The serotonin would get kicked off just by being around them and them tripping. Almost like what they call flashbacks in a sort of way, but not exactly. And I started to notice that you could actually suck the high from them by doing the same thing. Moving this energy around your own body, you could actually bring your attention outside of your body to somebody's aura, and you could maneuver their energy from them. You see it as a form of light that you begin to suck away from them. And now there's no way that I could teach you. It's like me teaching you how to move your hand. I could tell you these things, but you have to try it for yourself enough times until you get it. But the thing is, it's not that difficult, and if you really try a few times, you'll be able to start to move energy through your body. You'll be able to start to do this to other people. Now here's where it gets unethical. I've been around vampire communities, and I've seen this done in good ways, and I've seen this done in bad ways. Sucking away somebody's high is, you're infringing, and we'd leave them sober, We would take their high, suck it away from them, they would feel sober, and suddenly we'd be high, and they'd have no idea what happened. Oh, I guess the drug was bad. Yeah, tough for you, Now, I guess also this has been on my mind. I'll be doing a lecture at the Court of Lazarus in New York City. Not so much a lecture, I'm doing a mercurial ritual on the zodiac and everything I talked about in the last video. So I'll be around a vampire community, and I haven't seen them do anything unethical. Now, I have been to another community, and I'll leave the name out because I don't want to blacklist anybody or start drama, but I was around another vampire community. When I went to their public event, I did a lecture there about hermetic magic and how I intertwined a little bit of Santeria into my hermetic regimen, and how that works for me working with LA Gua. Now, everything was fine at their public event, and a couple weeks or a couple months later, they had invited me to a private event, and we were at a diner. And I saw what they did, I felt what they did, I got exposed to it, but I did not partake, but I got mad. But they didn't do anything to me, so it's kind of like me bringing it up would have just stirred a shit pot that I didn't need to stir. It would have caught upset feelings, and people are going to do what they're going to do, and it's their karma. Now, we were sitting at a dinner table, and there was a dad with his two sons a few tables away, and there's nobody else in the diner. So they created a dome of energy over the 12 people at our table, and they started to suck the energy out of these people, and they're laughing. Oh, these kids look like tasty treats, tasty little desserts. Now, time goes by, and suddenly the kid starts to look tired. The other kid starts to look tired. They're sort of falling out a bit, right? The energy moved from them to our table, and they're feasting on it. That's vampirism in one sense. Right? And I didn't partake of it. I got hit with the energy, and it got me upset that they did it, but I let it go, and I did some banishings and some other cleansing rituals that actually negated what they did afterwards. And they were not the greatest magicians, anybody there, so they didn't know what I did, but I kind of cleansed them of it, trial by fire sort of thing. Anywho, that's one form of vampirism. Another type of psychic vampirism is a person that does it unconsciously. And if you've ever met one of those people, they're almost more dangerous. And how my teacher described it to me is that in their body of light or their aura, they actually project like a hook and they don't know they're doing this, but they'll project like a beam of light or a hook or something, and they'll use that to attach to you and start sucking energy out. And what they'll do is they'll bring up awkward conversation, something that makes you feel uncomfortable or tense, something that brings out negative emotion in you, so that this way you're a little perturbed, and they tend to like that nasty type of energy, that nasty type of feeling and emotion, and they vibe really well off of that. For example, I was in front of the LGBT center one day, and this young gay guy who was definitely psychic vampirism started bringing up weird sexual innuendos when it was just me and him out there, and not in a way to hit on me, but in a way to make me uncomfortable. And the next thing you know, I started feeling tired, and I could feel his energy, my energy being drawn into him. I could feel his energy sucking off of mine. And what my teacher taught me to do is create a visual from this person's body of light to yours of that beam or of a hook, and sever it and then remove it from you, and they'll feel it. Another thing you could do with psychic vampires that they tend not to like is move all of your energy up into Kether, the sphere above your head, Kabbalistic, and make it as bright as possible. They might even look away a little bit. They tend not to like that very much, and that's one of those folklore things where vampires are afraid of the light, right? So there are a lot of esoteric truths in these folklore if you really look for them, and if you know what you're looking for, or you have a little bit of experience with something in real life, and then you go back and reread mythologies or folklores, you're able to see, oh wow, there is something here, there's something informative here. There's information out there if you know how to look for it. Now, how could you do this in a positive manner that is ethical and doesn't hurt anybody? Well, once you get that body scan going, what you can do is, there's plenty of energy from the earth, there's plenty of energy from the sun, there's energy from the forest, from the flowers, from the trees, from the moon and the other planets, right? And it's almost the same way you magnetize yourself. Like, let's say you're doing something of a Jupiterian ritual for some type of gain of money or love, whatever, right? Let's go with money, not so much love, but friendship or money. Money's a good one. So you're using Jupiter to get money. You're going to magnetize your aura through ritual, maybe through sigil magic, to attract money. And it's like you turn your aura into a field that magnetizes whatever you want to. So you want money, you're going to get money if you know how to turn your body of light into a magnet for money, for prosperity. It's going to come to you because you've magnetized yourself. Now, with vampirism, once you learn how to suck energy from something or move the energy in your own body, you can move energy from anywhere. Now, you could take energy from the earth just by standing. What you could do, very powerful ritual, and I'll post a document in the description called the Circulation of Light that I worked with William for a couple of years. He was my teacher, William Allen Wheeler. And circulation of light is a way of cleansing your external body of light and your internal body of light using the sphere of Kether, almost like a Brillo pad, right? Now what you do is you begin by closing your eyes, taking a few breaths and centering yourself. Then you visualize yourself with your eyes closed in this huge black void, this empty space. There you visualize yourself standing on a sphere of light the size of the earth, and you start to visualize energy coming up from that sphere of light into the soles of your feet with every breath, and it seeps up and up and up very slowly, maybe over the course of 11 to 21 breaths. And at every breath in, you're breathing in the light through the soles of your feet from the earth. You bring it up and in, and then you bring it all the way up to Kether until it accumulates there, and that's when you'll go into the next phase of the ritual. But right there, you've done a sort of psychic vampirism, but in a good way, you know? You could do this with anything. You could do it with the physical earth once you've learned how. This is just a beginner way of doing it. You could take the energy from planets in the same manner. We have apps now, we don't even have to calculate, but there's apps, for instance. Let me take a look. There's an app called Sky Map for Android that will tell you exactly where a zodiac constellation is and where a planet is. And you basically open it, you do the thing where you turn your phone every direction so it calculates directions correctly, and then you could point it anywhere you want with your camera, and it'll show you a map of the night sky, down, up, left, right, behind, forward, and it'll show you wherever the camera's pointing what's in that direction. And if there's a zodiac or a planet there, boom, now you know where it is. And you could do your greater hexagram rituals like that. Or, for instance, you could do the psychic vampirism with planets. Now, let's say you locate the planet Jupiter for that cash ritual. What you're going to be able to do there is, let's say the planet Jupiter is right down there, right? It's straight down. So putting your attention on that point, focusing there, you now have a visualization of where it is. So you visualize a link from that planet to your heart, or just to your body of light in general. And you could start to draw energy from that planet through that beam of light directly into yourself. Now, all the better if you know what the energy of Jupiter feels like, and how you could know is looking at the qualities of it, and then what those qualities cause as a feeling in yourself. So, for instance, Jupiter is friends, law and order, social conformity or conformity of government power. It could also be prosperity and abundance, more, pleasure, right? Pleasure of a mundane sense. So think about what it feels. Let's say you're doing this ritual for cash, and so you want to draw in a lot of Jupiter energy. Now, think about what it feels like when you have an abundance of cash. What does that feel like for you? Right? Think about how happy or excited, if you won a lottery ticket, how that feels. That's the feeling you want to draw off of that Jupiter planet. Same way if you're looking to meet new people for networking or for business and you're using Jupiter. Think about what it would feel like to have new people in your life and draw an energy off of the planet Jupiter that produces that feeling, and bring that, make your body of light magnetized so that it's drawing that feeling so that those people are going to come to you. And essentially that's how you use psychic vampirism in a positive way. So I want to give another short story that about psychic vampirism in a wrong way, right? Because I'm not perfect, and this was about 4 years ago, and you know, we have rough days, and we're magicians, and it's kind of like with magic comes a responsibility to yourself and to others to use it responsibly, to do your will and not to do anything else that is going to interfere with anybody else's will. So that being said, I was on the train, on the L train, probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it was a packed train. I was annoyed as it was. I was having a sort of pain in the butt day, and there was this young kid, probably like 20 years old, with his girlfriend, and he's just one of those loud, obnoxious bros, and he kept bumping into me. And I said, excuse me, and I tried to move away, but there were so many people I couldn't really go anywhere, and he's just right up against me, and he's flailing his arms all over the place, and acting like a real jerk, you know, one of those type of young kids. No regard for other people's personal space or anything, right? And it got to the point after like several stops and asking him a bunch of times, hey, could you please stop? Could you please stop doing that? And so I just got close enough to him that I started sucking his energy away from him. And what I put my elbow just close enough so that it was almost touching him, or it might have just touched him or his bag or something. And I started to draw energy from him using that body scan technique. It's not much more difficult than that. And I started to feel the energy coming from him right into my body. and I didn't even want it, so I let it just spew out of my heart center everywhere else. So I was just sucking his energy and just dispersing it immediately. I wasn't even partaking of it. When you partake of the energy, it will create a feeling of liveliness. You could get to the point where you get an adrenaline rush, or there's multiple feelings you can create in yourself by taking energy from other people. So I had taken this energy from him, and in the course of 2 more stops or whatever, he went from, yay, I'm all happy, all crazy, and I'm gonna bump people, to, and his face turned gray. He went from normal skin color to gray and tired and deathly looking. And his girlfriend was like, oh my God, Dave, are you okay? And they got off the train, and the kid was literally like, no, I'm fine. And like stumbled off the train. And I didn't feel good about that afterwards, you know? And I haven't done that since, because I saw it's like, you're hurting people. People are assholes, but now me doing that creates a karmic link with him. And not only that, karma that has to get paid off, you know? So if somebody does psychic vampirism to me, what the hell could I say? You know, I violated somebody else's boundaries and did harm to them to an extent, not so much, but enough to, you know, spoil their afternoon for sure. He'd be fine, you know, an hour later. But, you know, the point is, I violated a boundary, and so I can't complain when I have to pay that karma off down the line, you know? Now, a forewarning, right? When you do psychic vampirism, it's almost like a drug sometimes, and it depends on how you're doing it. Usually when you're doing it with people or animals, it becomes very drug-like, and it's harmful. And the more you do it, the more you need it. And when you don't have it, you become irritable, you are yourself drained, and so it becomes like you need to start feeding on people just to get normal again, and then you have to feed more in order to get that high that you got the first time. And so it becomes chasing that drug almost, you know? Now, when you're doing it with planetary energy or just the earth or the sun, right? I've never had any ill effects from it. And it's kind of like if you do Liberesh, where you do these solar adorations and you're linking yourself to the sun and you're identifying with the sun and the sunlight, you're sort of withdrawing that energy, and it's almost the same concept. You're bringing that energy into yourself. Now, I've never had bad effects stopping where I needed to be doing this. It's only ever been positive, but I have had effects where when you do it with other people, it could very easily become addictive, and there's a dependence, a physical dependence upon it. So that's a big warning right there, and that already lets you know, like, hey, this is messed up. There's something not good about this. It isn't pure. Things that are pure tend not to hurt you like that, you know what I mean? Spiritual practices. There are spiritual practices that do cause pain because you have to change stuff, but there's nothing spiritual about hurting somebody who doesn't deserve it, right? So that's just a forewarning, and that's why it's unethical to do it with people. However, you can use energy manipulation on other stuff that in no way will hurt the earth, will hurt the sun, will hurt you, or create any physical dependence or anything bad per se. Now, here's an interesting concept, because I have one more story before I start to wrap up. And what happened was, I was in state prison, and I was fairly generous. You know, people have no family, or their families gives up on them because they're in prison for so long, or they just don't have money to send the people for commissary, and it sucks, you know. I've never really been there. I've always had somebody to help me out. My grandmother was there, my mother was somewhat there, and I had other friends and family members that were there, and you know, and plus I worked while I was up there, and I took care of myself. I did what I had to do, staying out of trouble, and I wasn't doing drugs upstate, so I didn't need money, just enough to feed myself, get what I wanted, and make my life a little bit more comfortable, right? Now, there was this young guy, maybe 34, 35, and I was 23, 24 at the time, and every so often he would ask for a cigarette, and yeah, sure, here, take a rolled up cigarette, it's fine, there's nothing wrong, here, just take one, I don't mind. We had mutual friends, it was cool. And then there was a day I just really didn't have, I had like a half a pouch. I wasn't going to the commissary for a day or two, and I don't want to be stuck, either buying stuff from somebody or borrowing or begging. I don't want to be in that position, so I had to tell the guy no. And next thing you know, he's like, what do you mean no? I'm like, no. No means fuck. Excuse my language. No means no. And he puffed his chest up and got all mad and angry and stuff. And then we were actually in a program house at the time. Part of, if you had anything drug related, you had to complete a 6-month in prison program where you moved to this dormitory, and a couple times a day you had bullshit meetings, excuse my language again, but they were BS completely. So you'd have these BS meetings that you'd have to sit through and talk about recovery or spirituality. And you know, I was very into a lot of stuff, Egyptian and Hermeticism and getting into Kabbalah. So people tended to listen when I got up and talked, and I had no problem. Like it was fine for me, whatever. But so we got called into meeting right as this guy was puffing up his chest and acting all hard. And so he was sitting a few seats away from me while we were doing this meeting, and I could see he was angry, just fuming angry. Now, what I did was I created a visual of his aura, and I could see that anger was coming as red light in his aura. It was very aggressive, right? Now, what I did was I first started to take away that red light and then replace it with cool blue calming energy, almost sleepy energy that made him a little bit tired, right? And as I cooled him down and relaxed him and made him tired, I could start to see he was getting a little bit tired himself. He was relaxed. And then once the meeting went over, he was kind of like sleepy looking, and now I had a lot of energy because I was normal, but he was not. So I said, let's go to the bathroom and talk. And usually when you invite somebody to the bathroom, it's to fight. That was not what happened. What happened was I rolled 3 cigarettes. I gave him one. I gave him 2, and I lit one for myself. And I said, I really can't do anything else for you. We're not really great friends, but we're not enemies. I feel bad that you don't have anybody to help you out, but keep in mind, I don't owe you anything. So I'm not going to give you anything after this unless I have more. And when I say no, it means no. And I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry, you know? And he was now in a position where if I wanted to fight him because he puffed up his chest and I wanted to puff up my chest and prove myself, this would have been a big opportunity because I had nothing to prove, but I could have stomped him out. He was so tired. I chose not to. I didn't want to lift a finger to him. I didn't want to hurt him. Now, does this violate a boundary? I don't know, because the kid, he was a little wild guy. He was in for, you know, assaults, and he's a fighter. I've seen him scuffle with other people over minor BS before. So was that what he was going to do with me? I don't know. Quite possibly. Did I want to chance it? No. Now, me sticking my hand in the cookie pot, in the cookie jar, and meddling karmically in this situation, in my mind, I could justify it because I was defending myself and I didn't do anything to hurt him. I just cooled him down. Magically, it worked. In one sense, that could be considered doing my will. I kept myself safe. I ended up keeping him safe. I helped him out with the cigarette after everything was said and done. I didn't eat his energy. I just changed it. You know, I switched it from a red to a blue. Replaced it with what was there already anyway. So did I violate any type of boundary? In my mind, I think not. I kept myself safe. I was in a position where he looked like he was going to swing on me right before they called group, just because I told him, no, I don't want to give you something that's mine. And then I pulled him aside and he saw, like, wait, this person's in a position that they could actually hurt me and they're not going to. Wait, they're giving me something? Oh my God, that's kind of like, he saw the compassion, because I really care about people. I know what it's like to be without, and I've had people help me out when I didn't even expect or ask for it. So I know how it feels when somebody helps you out, and I know what it feels like when somebody tells you no. And especially if he's coming from a background where when somebody tells you no, you just take it from them. I understand that too, you know? So it's interesting what you can do with psychic vampirism. And to me, it's like, it happened a lot in 2012 because of drugs, and specifically psychedelics of various kinds, and learning how to kind of take the high from other people, you know? So that's my talk for today. I have a bunch of topics I'm going to be coming up with to just catch a view. I'm right here at the end of the High Line, and it's such a pretty day out, you know. Got these huge buildings everywhere. I'm probably around like 33rd Street area. Sky is like so beautiful blue, you know. Get a good shot of everything. We got a train yard over here. It's the little guy, the railroad. So that's my talk. Don't forget to subscribe, like. I don't have social media right now. I chose to get off of it for various reasons, so I'm kind of dependent on you guys to spread the word that I'm doing these. If you like hearing what I'm talking about, if you find any of the information helpful, if you think me telling my stories is entertaining, share it with people, let them know. Lexi Eve on YouTube. So, love is the law, love under will. Peace.